Hello and welcome, and thank you for joining us at Talks at Oh My Home. My name is Darren Teo. I'm your host this evening. For this session, we'll be focusing on financing options and the use of CPF. We are at part 3 of our 5-part Buying an HDB crash course. So for those buyers who have been following us so far, we trust you have found the course to be very useful. So be sure you follow us till the end and get the full course of knowledge and tips. And now, to introduce our guest speakers this evening, we have a tag team from the Northeast Zone, and they are Douglas Kwa, the team leader, and Jason Selvaraj, our senior advisor of our Northeast team. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hi, good evening. Good to be back.
Hi, this is Jason. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, guys. It's a pleasure to have you guys with us this evening. Now, Douglas and Jason are seasoned agents, and both of them have been in real estate for more than 10 years each. Well, we know that the Northeast Zone is a hot zone with many sale transactions, and Douglas and Jason have each transacted more than 50 units in just the last 12 months alone. Well, this means that both of them have done plenty of financial calculations and CPF advice, so that they are definitely well placed to share on these topics we have tonight. So now let's look at topics again. Topics we have today are: 1. Compare bank loans and HDB loan. We will be doing some case studies on cash outlays and some recommendations too. And 2, CPF usage for loans. We'll do an overview, estimated time frame to reach loan to value, and case studies as well as recommendations. Okay, guys, let's start with the first topic, bank loans versus HDB loans. Over to you.
Okay, so today we'll be discussing the difference between the bank loans and the HDB loans. We will be sharing how these loans work, what to look out for, and of course the pros and cons of each type of loan. Let's take a look at the comparison between the bank loan versus the HDB loan. The loan value from the bank will be at 75%, and the down payment will be 25% of the purchase price, of which comprises 5% cash and 15 and 20% CPF. The minimum income criteria will be eligible for it is $2,500 per month. The loan tenure for the bank loans will be up to 25 years to 30 years, age maximum up to 65 years old to 75 years old, depending on the packages that you go for. The interest rate for fixed packages are from 1.8% per annum and floating rates from 1.44% per annum. Some things for you to take note when looking into bank loans. So for bank loans, one can set aside their CPF in their ordinary account as a security fund without wiping out everything in their CPF OA account. And of course, taking a bank loan, the 5% cash down payment, it's a mandatory. For those doing sell and buy, they will not be able to require to utilize 50% of their cash proceeds from their sales into the next purchase. So let's look at the HDB loan for now. The loan to value for HDB loan is 90%, and the down payment 10% of the purchase price, of which this can come from their CPF ordinary account. The loan tenure for HDB loan will be 25 years, age maximum up to 65 years old. The interest rate is 0.1% above the CPF OA interest rate at 2.6%. So again, some things to note when taking a HDB loan. HDB loan interest rate remains throughout the entire tenure. And for cash-wise, it will be the deposit during the OTP period, which is the option to purchase period, and it could be up to $5,000. For those that are doing sell and buy, utilizing your second HDB loan, they are required to down pay 50% of their cash proceeds from their sale into the next purchase before borrowing the rest from HDB. So you see over here, Darren, each type of loans have their merits. Let's have a look at a case study to understand this better.
Oh yes, thank you very much. And I'm sure a case study here will help to put all these numbers into perspective. So let's look at it.
Yes, that's right. Let's look at an example. So this is a bank loan versus a second HDB loan example. Tim and Megan sold their last property and received a cash proceeds of $120,000. Now they are buying a second property at $500,000. So over here, we are comparing the difference between taking a bank loan and HDB loan. For bank loan, the cash down payment will be 5%, which is 25,000 for our example. And they are going for a fixed rate package, interest rate going for 1.8% per annum, and a lock-in for 5 years. And the loan tenure is 25 years. For this package, the total interest paid out at the end of 5 years will be 20,207. Tim and Megan can choose to keep most of the 120,000 cash proceeds with them. Next, for HDB loan, the cash down payment will be 50% from the 120,000 cash proceeds, which is amount to 60,000 already. The interest rate from HDB is 2.6% and the loan tenure 25 years. For this package, the total interest paid at the end of 5 years will be 29,383. So therefore, if Tim and Megan choose to take up a bank loan today for their next purchase, there will be a savings of 9,176 over the period of 5 years. Okay, so over here, however, Tim and Megan also need to note that when taking bank loans, the bank packages have a lock-in period. After the lock-in period, the interest rate typically will jump. And in such cases, to continue to enjoy the lower interest rate, they will need to refinance their mortgage loan to another bank. So during the refinancing process, please also note that banks will access Tim's and Megan's employment income to allow them to refinance their loan to another bank. In the event if they happen to be unemployed during that period, the banks may not approve their loan for refinancing.
Well, Jason, is there a way I can find out how to calculate the loan I'm eligible for?
Yes, Darren. Okay, so I can show you how. So for home buyers, you can find out your affordability via our app itself. So in our app, in Oh My Home app, just scroll down to the services section, look for calculators and tap on it. Tap on affordability calculator. It will help you to calculate the maximum bank loan amount. Here, you key in all the attributes, your age, your income, and then you can key in the CPF that you have in your account. And of course, if there's any cash on hand that you will use for the purchase as well. So do it for 2 owners. Repeat the same steps. Same thing, you key in all the details. And after that, all you have to do is to click next. And then you will be able to see your affordability at the end of the whole assessment. Here you go. Isn't it easy, Darren?
Yes, nice.
By the way, you can also check out the difference between the bank rates and of course on our app itself to speak to our home mortgage brokers.
Okay, thanks for demonstrating that. It is definitely a good tool to use, Jason. Okay, can you also look at another case study, perhaps where it concerns a newly married first-time buyer?
Okay, Darren, let's look at another example. All right, these are first-time buyers, married couple, Mr. Alex, who is 34 years old, and Mrs. Judy, who is 30 years old. Now, they want to buy a 4-room flat in Punggol near their parents' place. Now, Alex and Judy each have an income of $3,000. Their combined ordinary account balance in their CPF is $100,000, and they are both eligible for total housing grants of $105,000. Now, they are also eligible for an estimated loan of $360,000. Therefore, their maximum budget is $565,000. Now, we brought them around to see many units in Punggol, and finally, they have shortlisted a property at a sale price of $500,000.
All right, so when we compare their financial plan for both bank loan and HDB loan, both loan amount to be $300,600. So however, the main difference over here we are seeing is the legal fees and the cash upfront. So for bank loans, the legal fees are estimated to be $2,000 and the cash upfront will be 5%, which is $25,000. For HDB loan, the legal fees are estimated to be about $1,000. And the cash upfront, it will be the deposit during the option to purchase period, and it could be up to $5,000.
Okay, now judging from this, it seems that the cash outlay for HDB is much lower. So why would people still take bank loans?
That's a good question, Darren. Let us take a closer look at how much interest and monthly mortgage will Alex and Judy will be paying under these 2 types of loan. Then from there, you will know and you will be able to see why. Okay, the interest rate for bank is 1.8% and HDB at 2.6%. In both scenarios, the bank loan amount, the loan amount is actually 300,600 over a period of 25 years. The bank loan monthly installment is 1,245, while the HDB loan monthly installment is 1,364. From here, we are seeing a savings of $119 per month. If Alex and Judy were to go with the bank loan, these savings will grow over time into the repayment tenure.
Okay, that makes perfect sense now why some people prefer to go for bank loans. So now that we have gone through and compared the different types of loans, what would we be looking for when we are using CPF for mortgage repayments? Are there anything to note?
Okay, Darren, generally people want to use CPF to pay for their loan installments. This way, they get to conserve as much cash as possible. But in the usage of your CPF, there are three main things to note. And here are the three main points. CPF only allows you to use your ordinary account to pay for your flat up to the valuation price, which is also known as the valuation limit. And once this limit is reached, you are no longer allowed to use your CPF to pay for your monthly installments, and you have to start using cash. And if you want to continue to use your CPF to pay for your housing loan, you would then have to set aside the basic retirement sum. And if you are taking a bank loan, you can only use up to 120% of the valuation limit. To help understand these three main points better, let me elaborate on point number 1. So, continuing on with our same buyers, Alex and Judy, who would like to buy their new property for $500,000. They are taking up a HDB loan of $300,600. The repayment period is 25 years, which is depicted here in the bar. Their monthly repayment will be $1,364. Now, they intend to fully service this loan only using their CPF. The valuation limit for the usage of their CPF for this property is $500,000. Now, even though the price of the HDB and the valuation limit are both $500,000, do note that the repayment per month comprises of both the principal sums plus interest, and therefore this amount is estimated to be used up in 17 years' time. Thereafter, Alex and Judy will have to use cash to service their loan installments for the remainder of their loan tenure.
So Jason, how can they continue to use the CPF to service their loans?
Well, Darren, to continue to use CPF to pay after the valuation limit is reached, we will look at point number 2 with regards to the basic retirement sum. Now, we now know that the valuation limit of $500,000 is going to be used up in 17 years. In order to continue using CPF ordinary account to pay for their loan installments, they would need to set aside their basic retirement sum. Now, Alex and Judy are not 55 years old yet. So their basic retirement sum will be the same as that of CPF members who are going to be turning 55 years old that particular year.
So Jason, will this scenario be different if Alex and Judy were to take up a bank loan instead?
Yes, Darren, the scenario will be different for sure. And this brings us to point number 3. Now, if taking a bank loan, the buyers need to be aware that they can only use their CPF to pay for their property only up to a maximum of 120% of valuation. Now, because they are taking up a bank loan of $300,600 with the same repayment period over 25 years, the monthly repayment now will be $1,245 because of the lower interest rates. Now, they intend to service this loan solely using their CPF. The valuation limit for the usage of their CPS is $500,000. Now, even though the price of the HDB and the valuation limit are both 500,000, the repayment per month comprises of principal and interest, and therefore the amount of CPF that can be used to pay for the property is estimated to be used up in 20 years' time. Thereafter, Alex and Judy will have to use cash to service their loan installments for the remainder of their loan tenure. Even though they may have excess CPF in their accounts, they will not be allowed to use it.
Okay, Jason. So is there any other way for them to use their balanced CPF on the same property if they have enough?
Yes, it is possible, Darren. They will then need to set aside the basic retirement sum in order to continue using their CPF. And they can do this anytime before the 20-year period is up. They can continue to use their CPF to pay up to a maximum of $600,000 only, as this is 120% of the valuation price. So now that we have seen both options of HDB loan and bank loan, the main difference between the two is that even after setting aside the basic retirement sum for the HDB loan, there is no limit on the usage of CPF. Whereas for the bank loan, the buyers can only use up to 120% of the valuation price. So in this particular scenario, that would translate to a maximum of $600,000, which is more than sufficient to pay for this home.
Yeah, that's right. Alex and Julie were taken aback when we shared this scenario with them, remember?
Yes, I remember very clearly, Douglas. Luckily, we had some solutions for their considerations. Now, we have three options for their considerations. Option one, which is to consider a shorter loan tenure instead of the maximum tenure. Now, for Alex and Judy, a shorter loan tenure means paying off the loan earlier, avoiding using up the valuation limit of their CPF before their loan tenure is reached, as they save on interest. Now, this is a viable option, and they need to consider the affordability on a monthly basis as well. Now, the second option that's available is for them to pay the installments with part cash and part CPF. Now, if they would still want to maximize their loan tenure to 25 years, then they could consider paying their loan using part cash and part CPF. And this way, they will also avoid using up the valuation limit before the loan tenure is up. Now, the third and final option would be to sell the flat before reaching the valuation limit. Now in Alex and Judy's case, they would have to sell within 17 years if they took a HDB loan and 20 years if they take a bank loan. Now let us take a closer look at how paying the loan installments in part cash and part CPF would help our buyers. Now, we already know what happens when you use only your CPF to pay your loan installments. You will run out. Now, if Alex and Judy were to use part cash and part CPF to pay their loan installments, then they would be able to use their CPF to pay their loan installments for the entire loan tenure of 25 years. And on top of that, they do not need to set aside the basic retirement sum before they turn 55 years old.
So Jason, let's say Alex and Judy do not want to use CPF at all to pay their monthly installments and want to use CPF even if they are able to afford the cash. Can they do so?
In this case, Darren, I would advise selling before their valuation limit is reached. Now, let us run through this option for them. Okay, assuming Alex and Judy bought the home in our earlier example this year, and if they are taking a HDB loan, they would need to sell within 17 years' time. And if they are taking a bank loan, they would need to sell within 20 years. Now, this can come with its own challenges. Hence, Alex and Judy should consider the market conditions when they wish to sell their property. They would also need to calculate the cash proceeds and their CPF refunds, including the accrued interest. And they would also need to consider their available loan at that point in time and find the right house within their budget. Then again, I must stress, Darren, that every buyer is different and what works for one buyer may not work for another. and buyers should seek the advice of professional agents before going ahead and committing to a property.
Wow. Well, that really sums up our discussion topics today. How we have compared bank loans versus HDB loans, look into CPF usage and how the loans may affect them differently. Well, now that we have the two of you professionals here and buyers in the audience, what would be your top picks for them in the Northeast region?
Well, Darren, I have to say I've got the home turf advantage. So I am going to recommend the town of Punggol as my top pick. Now, I'm living around there as well. So if I'm a buyer today, I would definitely be buying in Punggol as well. Now, one of the hot spots in Punggol where there are more transactions citing good demand are the recently MOP units near Oasis Terrace Mall, as there are various amenities like the mall and schools, and even the upcoming future Punggol Regional Sports Center and the Punggol Town Hub, which will be ready in the year 2021. Now, these are units along Punggol Drive, Punggol Central, Edgefield Plains, namely the 600 series. The attractive thing about living in this area is that you have good facing of the waterway and parks and have the feel-good factor about living in such homes. Connectivity is also great as there are LRT stations nearby within walking distance, and there is absolutely no shortage of eateries in the area.
Well, very nice, Jason. How about you, Douglas? What about yourself?
All right, Darren. For myself, my top pick will be Fernvale area over the western side of Sengkang New Town. So this area is a very vibrant area and has many amenities around it. So nearby there is a park connector which links Sengkang Riverside Park to Punggol Waterway all the way over. Okay, the main attraction in this area is built around this mall called the Seletar Mall. You can get great restaurants such as Hai Di Lao that opens 24 hours over there, and Starbucks coffee, Texas chicken and bakeries, etc. Services like the POSB Bank, NTUC to do your groceries, and of course money changes, etc. All you can find in this mall itself. There is also a cinema in this mall for you to fix your late night movie. So the newly MOP clusters along Fernvale Road, along Fernvale Lane, and of course Jalan Kayu area are such HDBs within close proximity to the Seletar Mall that is connected to Sengkang Riverside Park. So these clusters are very well connected via a short LRT ride to Sengkang Central. There you go. That's my top picks for the Northeast region.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you for sharing your favorite picks. They do really look appealing, and we can see why you love them. Okay, now let's take a look at the comment section to check if there are any questions for us, shall we? Okay, we have one question from one of our viewers, and his question is, when should I do refinancing and what is the lock-in period? Can you address that, please? Okay,
Darren, allow me to take this question. Well, it all depends on which bank and what are the packages that you have signed up for. You know, for some packages, there are like 2 years lock-in or 3 years lock-in. You can only, and you should only do your refinancing after the lock-in period ends. So probably I'll just share a little bit about the lock-in. The lock-in period is a time frame where interest rates are guaranteed during this period for you. And then you are not allowed to redeem your loan in full, otherwise you will incur a penalty fee. So typically, the banks will require a 3 months notice period to serve, you know, prior to refinance your loan out. So do take note of that.
Okay, thank you for the very clear explanation, Douglas. Okay, let's take one more question. Okay, we have another question, and question goes, which is a better loan option, bank loan or HDB loan?
Okay, Darren, for myself, I took a HDB loan as I did not have much cash savings when I bought my flat. But if I were to buy another home now, I would consider taking up a bank loan too, because currently the bank loan interest rates are much lower. And do check with our mortgage team, for they are very helpful. They help you compare across all banks in Singapore for the best rates.
Okay. So it actually depends on each individual's situation, preference, as well as timing, as the terms may be different. So I hope that helps to clarify so the viewers can go look into their own needs. Okay, so that's all the questions we have for this evening. And there you go, guys. All you need to know about financing options and the use of CPF in 30 minutes. Okay, thank you once again, Douglas and Jason, for your very insightful sharing this evening. It has been an enjoyable session with you indeed. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you, Darren. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Darren. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, guys. Okay, now that was Douglas and Jason, our Northeast Zone Tech Team. Okay, well, thank you everyone for staying with us at Old Talks on My Home, and we trust you are now better informed about financing options available as well as the things to note with the use of CPF. We will be covering part 4 on viewings, negotiations, and buying procedures.